Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and in this episode, I'm going to teach you how to quit your job and prosper with purpose.
Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and I'm a kick-ass business coach, and I'm on an absolute mission to help you find your purpose in life, to help you love what you do for work every single day, to help you be the rock star that you are meant to be, to make more money than you ever thought was possible, and to have more time freedom so you can actually enjoy the life that you're living. I'm here to help you set your life on fire.
All right, so to every single person, a life on fire has a different definition. And I'm not knocking on jobs because I have people in my life that have amazing jobs where they love what they do, even work from home and have great situations. But if you're watching Life on Fire TV, odds are you're probably an entrepreneur. You probably like the tagline, entrepreneurs living the dream. You probably want to have time freedom. You probably don't want to have a boss, right? You want to boss yourself. So if you're in that category, if you either want to be an entrepreneur or you are an entrepreneur, then you're going to want to pay full attention to this episode because I'm going to teach you how you specifically can quit your job, fire your boss, and prosper with purpose. And so I'm going to teach all the nuggets in this particular episode by sharing a story about one of my own clients. His name is PJ Dixon. And so what's awesome is PJ and I ended up meeting at my event called Ignite. It's called Ignite Your Movement. I actually have one coming up this June 17th through 20. Just go to igniteevent2015.com. If you want to check it out, I have a free ticket for you. So PJ was doing all the right things, right? So PJ has a corporate job. He was looking, he just had that feeling inside of him where he just wanted more. He wasn't fully happy at the job. He had always wanted more and he was always looking for the next thing, but just never had the resources or the mentorship to take that big leap of faith and quit his job. So PJ invested in himself and came to my event called Ignite Your Movement. And there he was in the crowd, and PJ's in a wheelchair and he was just super interactive. The guy's just so much fun and he's got such a big heart. And what I love about PJ is we did this thing at Ignite having dance ambassadors. And even though PJ's in a wheelchair, he's like, he's not gonna let that hold him back, right? So we do this thing where every time we go on a break, we come back and everyone's dancing and we have one person that leads a whole crowd of hundreds of entrepreneurs, in this live event. And so PJ's up there just rocking it out, getting the whole crowd moving in his wheelchair, and he's just inspiring people around him. We then at the event ended up doing this thing called a glass walk where we actually had just hundreds of bottles of wine and glass all broken into these beds, right? And what's so crazy is, if you imagine this, we have these beds of glass and people walk over the beds of glass to break through their fear. And at the end, they punch through a board. And what that does is it helps you realize that you can do anything you put your mind to. Now for PJ in a wheelchair, legs just not able to do the exercise. We still had it set up where, man, he was trying to break through the board with his head. He ends up rolling over the board, still smashing through. Nothing will stop this guy, right? So he's in the right place at the right time. He's catching all kinds of mindset trainings at Ignite. We're talking about how to build your audience. And we basically ignited or ignite, however you say it, the movement inside of him. And so he's sitting there getting all fired up. And he could start to see the dots connecting, and he started to think bigger, and he started to think about all the things that he wants to do in his life. And what was so cool is that from that event, he ends up taking massive, and I mean massive action. So PJ did decide to hire me as his coach, and I get the privilege and the honor to coach him. And so the first thing that we did together is what I call my VIP day. And PJ flies to San Diego to meet face to face. He didn't have to. We could have met virtually like I've done many, many a times, but he flies to San Diego because he just knew he wanted that in-person connection. And so we sit down together and I'm going through my 3S strategy. So if you've seen some of our past Life on Fire TV episodes, you can see how powerful this is. You can see someone going from where they're at to finding their purpose, like I did with Shirley Solis and like we did with Karen Fagan and in previous episodes. And we go through it. And before we go through the 3S strategy, I'm like, all right, PJ, if we're going to play in your life here today and we're going to create your new vision, we're going to help you find your purpose so that you can prosper from it, we now need to make sure that you're in the right state of mind, because do you want to plan your future? Do you want to do that if you're kind of like, you know, in like an okay mood and you're kind of fired up? Or do you want to plan your life when you're thinking on a totally different level, when you're so inspired, you're so filled up, that fire in your belly is just burning bright? So when you're planning your future, of course you want to be in the right state of mind, right? So how we do that is an exercise that we teach at Ignite called Getting into State, and it's called your moment on fire. So I asked PJ, I'm like, all right, dude, listen, out of all of your life experiences, and people have had him speaking on their stages, like as a motivational speaker and doing different things. I was like, out of all your life experiences, I want you to break down one time, a time in your life where you've never felt more empowered, you've never felt more proud of yourself, you've never had more confidence, and you feel like you were just unstoppable. One time. And I was like, not just, don't give me the 20-minute version. I want you to give me a quick story about that one time in your life, and then we're gonna break it down to picture like a YouTube clip, and we're gonna just cut out just 1 second of that clip, and that will be your moment on fire. And I want you to think about that moment when you wake up. I want you to think about that moment and take all the energy from that, and you can completely change your state. It's like, think of a basketball player getting in the zone, and every time they shoot a jump shot, it's getting a swish, right? It's like, we all know about being in the zone with athletics. What about you being in the zone right now in your mindset for whatever task you have in front of you? So PJ gets it, and he's like, well, you know, brother, he's like, I'm just, you know, I'm very humble, and I don't like to, you know, brag about life experiences. And I'm like, dude, PJ, like, bust out, give me something. Like, you're such an amazing guy. Like, give me something to work with. Like, give me that. What's that time in your life? So I start trying to pull it out of him. All of a sudden, well, there was this one time when I was in Japan, and I'm like, okay, all right, what's going on here? When I was in Japan, and my sensei, and I'm like, whoa, time out. Like, what's going on here? So catch me up on all this. So turns out PJ is I believe 7th degree black belt. Crazy, 7th degree black belt. And it could be 10th degree. It's either 7 or 10. We're going to have an update on the screen that pops up when I confirm it with PJ, but it's freaking crazy. So let's just call it 7th degree black belt. Dude's in a wheelchair, and for me, and I think for many people, you're like, how does that happen, right? Like, what do you do? And what's so wild is he starts to share his moment on fire, where in his wheelchair, picture him sitting there, and there's an exercise where the sensei is behind him with a wooden sword, think of like a bamboo stick, and just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then all of a sudden, like without PJ having any idea, he's just sitting there like in a meditative state in the zone without being able to see who's behind him. And then the guy just comes and just tries to just crack him on the top of the skull. And what's crazy is if he dodges it without seeing or anything, just with his awareness, he passes and gets another degree of his black belt. If he doesn't, he just has this awful bamboo sword just cracking him on the skull. And so sure enough, he dodges it, right? And that's one story. I'm like, dude, how does that make you feel thinking that you accomplished that? It's like, oh, it's pretty good, you know? And I'm like, so we keep going. I'm like, why, you have better than that? He's like, oh man. He's like, let me tell you about this one time. He's like, when I roll up into a bar, I'm hanging with some friends, some girls, and this and that, and this big meathead hits on this beautiful woman who was just staying, you know, doing her thing, and this guy kept like hitting on her, and he was getting in her face, and got very uncomfortable, and all of a sudden, PJ comes up from behind him, bites him on the biscuit, and the guy's like, God, and he looks back, and he's like, and he looks down, and PJ's like, don't touch her, you know? And I'm like, how'd that make you feel? And he was like, oh, it made me feel amazing. Like I could stand up for someone, and he lit up, and he started to talk about that experience. I'm like, dude, now you're getting it. You're in the zone. You're in the zone. This is good. And then, so next thing you know, he's on a roll. And he's like, I got another story. Okay. So we've got another fire starter pro. His name is Simon Smart. Dude is absolutely incredible. He has a long history of also a 3rd degree black belt. And his case, or 4th degree, shoot, I can't even keep up with how many degrees they are. But Simon has been training our military, United States military, going to Afghanistan, and so he's a black belt, trains our military. This guy knows how to teach our military how to protect themselves in combat, all that stuff. So Simon is a total just badass, right? And so they are in Japan. They're both in Japan, and this is how they meet each other, where the sensei asks Simon to go punch PJ or knock him out or whatever. And you're thinking like, that just doesn't seem fair for PJ, right? And so this is how they meet, and it's so crazy. I can't even help but share this story because it is the ultimate moment on fire. So PJ's sitting there, and then Simon's task is to like knock him out. And the reason that Simon was picked is because the sensei knew that Simon wouldn't mess around. He'd go full at him, like he'd go full on, like going in for the kill, you know? And so sure enough, picture this guy inside, and he's jacked, right? He's jacked, he's in shape, he's a black belt, he trains our military, and he goes in to punch PJ. PJ dodges it with his head and his shoulders and bodies, and as he's coming across, PJ clutches, like lunges forward in his chair, clutches his arm, yanks him to the ground. And I'm like mind blown, like, PJ, this is insane. You literally have the coolest stories I've ever heard. And I'm like, what do you mean you couldn't find a moment on fire? You're doling them out like crazy, like candy. And so he's like, all right, yeah, I got some cool stories. So what happened in that moment and why I'm sharing this is, number one, it's because PJ is just freaking incredible. You just got to know this stuff about this guy. But number two is that by doing that, we got in this state. We got in the zone. We were on fire in our heads, and that is the perfect way to build a plan so that he could quit his job and he could prosper with purpose. And for you, it's the same thing. You want to be in the right state of mind when you're building your plan for your future. So we're in the right state of mind. Next thing you know, I start going through his story. So the 3S strategy is what's your story, what's your stance, and what's your strategy. For him, his background story is he goes way back, and he starts talking about ever since he was a little kid, he just always saw God. As a little kid, and he didn't grow up with going to church or anything like that, but as a little kid, he'd be playing with other little kids and be like, I see God in that blade of grass, or I see God in that flower, and things like that. And it was just this weird divine situation. So he had that in the story. We keep going, and there's a moment in his story where he had this crazy epiphany where because of his condition, he was supposed to have died years ago. Like, he's literally a miracle, and he was not supposed to make it as long as he has, right? Like, you're not, expected to die, I don't know, maybe 12 or something. He's way past, what the doctors said, right? So he's got that where he knows he's here for a reason. He knows his life has meaning, which is another big important aspect of finding your purpose. So he knows he's here for a reason. And all of a sudden in his story, he has this moment that he shares where all of a sudden he just was like looking up, and then this like beautiful light, just like this beam, just like he felt it like on his head and on his body, just like hitting him. And he just heard and saw the word love. And so ever since a young age, he's always just had love at the core of his values, and he's always just been all about love, and he's such an amazing dude. Like, I love this guy. And what's crazy is that from that situation, he's had so many situations where he's helped people connect them and find love. He's responsible for a handful of marriages and engagements and all kinds of cool stuff, and he's studied love and all these different things. And so when we were discovering that in the story, it was like, you could see how his background story and love and faith and all these things started to build up. And then we got to the point where I said, so dude, so what's your stance? What do you stand for? What's your mission right now, PJ? Like, what would be the legacy that you can leave to this earth, and the movement you want to start? What's your stance? And all of a sudden it started just pouring out of him. He started talking about love and like how he just wants to help women, bring back their femininity and all these cool things and help them find love. And once he got on that rift and he just started flowing, I'm sitting back and I'm taking notes and I'm just smiling, and I'm getting goosebumps, and I'm thinking, this is it. This is freaking it. This dude's purpose is literally unfolding before my eyes. That's my job as a coach, to see the potential and help extract it. And so there we are sitting, and he starts painting this full picture of how he wants to help women with love. And then I start to ask the tough questions of, well, how can you do this full time? And it's like, as soon as I turned that corner, and it was like, whoa, like reality came back in, like, how could he leave his job, or how could he do this full time? All the fears and frustrations, like all that stuff started popping back in. And what happened is we started to see how we could make it real. So you've got his story is about love and faith, and that builds up to his stance. And his stance is he wants to help women find love. Like that's what he stands for. That's what his mission in life is. And then the strategy is, all right, well, how do we make that a business? Well, figured out what kind of income he has at the job, which is taxing him 13 hours a day, because it takes him a bit to get ready. He's got to get to work. 13 hours a day. I'm like, man, PJ, if we unlock you and you are able to get rid of that job, dude, you've got 13 hours a day to transform lives, to help women to find love and find their soulmate and all this kind of cool stuff. Can you see how much of a difference you could make for people in their lives? And so he's, he can see it. And then all of a sudden we got to a spot where, well, how do I make a business around it? And I was like, okay, well, here's the thing. We need to tap into your past success stories. We need for you to reconnect with all the people that you've connected, create testimonials. You want to build up that library of people that you've helped and get that social proof. That's one step. Number two is we need you to go out and get one-on-one clients. We all want to scale. We all want to have, these information products where money just rains out of the sky. I'm with you, but to get there, you have to put in the work first. You've got to roll up the sleeves. You've got to do, I call it getting the reps in. You know what I mean? You got to work out the muscle. And the thing is that when you have one-on-one clients, that's your highest likelihood of getting them results. And when you get someone results, then you have success stories. When you have success stories, then you can create group coaching programs and you can scale and you can do all that kind of fun stuff. But you got to walk before you sprint, right? So we start talking about the strategy of, you need to do the one-on-one, right? You got to pay your dues. You got to get in there. You got to make it happen. So he's like, all right, well, what does that look like? I'm like, well, let's think of it as you're giving your one-on-one time. So maybe they're getting a call a week, right? And we need to make sure that they know what the outcome is, because the only person that's going to want to hire PJ is if they believe that he's the guy that's going to help them get the result what they want. So I'm like, if we want to sell that and you want to get customers, we need to make it tangible. So it's not just like, hey, work with me and I'll help you find love. Like that's too generic in general. So I then came and worked with him and figured out what is the most desirable end result that PJ you could get for a woman. We figured it out that it was getting engaged, because when you are getting engaged, you're getting married. When you're getting engaged, that's the soulmate. That's the deep love that people want. So then I come back with, all right, this is going to push you and this is going to push your clients. Engaged in a year. That is the ultimate benefit of what you're selling. So engaged in a year. And PJ was like, whoa, man, like crazy. And he loved it because that's exactly what he wants to help women do, is get engaged in a year. But then it's like, whoa, can I really promise that? Can I deliver that? I'm like, well, have you ever done that before? Sure enough, he has. He's connected people that have gotten engaged in a year and stuff. I'm like, are you capable of growing into that where you help people get engaged in a year? Yeah. And then I was like, well, think about it. If a woman comes to you and they're ready to make a shift and they want to get engaged in a year, and that's how they're entering their relationship with you, and you're their coach and you want them to get engaged in a year, guess what you're going to attract? People that are ready to find love. Right? And once you clear their beliefs and once you do your magic with them, PJ, guess what? Most likely you will have people that get engaged in a year, and that's why they want to hire you. And I looked at him and I was like, guess who got engaged in a year? I'm like, me. I got engaged to Megan Ann in less than a year. And so when you're working with the right target market, it's not crazy to help someone get engaged in a year, basically. And I helped him, see that, and that's part of the strategy. I helped him see that vision and then have him do some research and look in the marketplace that does make sense. There's people he can model. There's people that he can look at that are his competitors now, if you will, that have programs that are catchy like that are similar. So he got on board, totally fired up. But then guess what happened? When you nail your purpose, if I worked with you on that VIP day or you came to my Ignite event and we sat down and you figured out what it is that you want to do, the next thing that it happens every single time. As soon as someone finds their purpose and they see the vision that I have together, we all see it, then what happens is all of a sudden the oh crap moment happens where it's like, well, how am I going to do it? Like, I love the vision, Nick. I'm with you, but how am I going to do it? And that fear just is debilitating. I've watched it take some people and it just wipes them out. A lot of people that I work with, we help him fight through it. So we literally took all the reasons why he could not do it. So that's called limiting beliefs. So we wrote down all his reasons why he could not do it. I'm like, so tell me what's going on. Don't be shy. Write them down. We wrote down them one by one after another, after another, after another, after another. I think we had about 5. And what we did was an exercise about how to clear those limiting beliefs right in this restaurant. It's a very unique exercise, and I won't go through it all now, but it's a life-changing exercise. I've done it many times. And we did this exercise, we cleared those beliefs one after another, and we reframed and replaced those old beliefs with new positive affirmations, and we rewired how his brain was thinking about those beliefs. And when you're sitting there consciously, it's like, I hope that thing Unsworth did to me works, but subconsciously, we reframed it in his subconscious, and guess what? This dude went on to do big things and quit his job. So let me share how that transpired from that moment moving forward. So we leave that VIP day after 4 hours. From there, goes back home, faced with some of those fears and beliefs. We connect on our coaching calls, pushes through, and I'm like, PJ, all you need is that first step. Get that first customer, do free consultations, and bring people in, allow them to hear how you can help them, add value for people first on a free consultation, and then allow them to ask you how they can get more of you, right? So he does that. Sure enough, gets his first client. Flips out. Because when you get your first client like that, it changes everything. All of a sudden, this dream that you have, this purpose and how you want to prosper with your purpose, all of that, all of a sudden, it's like this foggy mirror. It's like having like the squeegee. It's like all of it becomes completely clear, and he could see it. And all of a sudden, those dots started to connect, and he gets excited. Now, there's still some of those limiting beliefs and fears, but those dots got connected. Next thing you know, he's all fired up. And next thing you know, he comes out to our mastermind event. Mastermind event is part of the coaching program, and comes out to the mastermind. We're surrounded with amazing entrepreneurs. You know, we've got people that we go around the room. Everyone wants to help each other. He gets another client just in our community. People are referring PJ to other people. He's doing all the right things, making the right, the right connections and relationships, gets another client. Now he's feeling good. At the mastermind, being in that zone energy, decides to put in his notice to quit his job. Imagine the fear that would be going through your body and your mind about leaving your income, quitting something you've been doing for years, and going off to this scary world of being an entrepreneur and going into the unknown, right? But it's our community. It's his drive. It's being in the zone and having that moment on fire. It's him, it's him rolling over his board and breaking through that, or us walking on glass at the Ignite event, knowing that we can do anything we put our minds to, right? So PJ, when he put his letter of resignation in, he literally is burning the boats. There's no going back. He has no choice but to succeed. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, that is key, where when I was in a tough spot, $50,000 in debt, I didn't have boats to burn. I had to go out and make money. I had to build that business. I didn't have a choice. I was going to default on my bills, right? So for PJ, quitting that job, burn the boats. He has to succeed, right? So he comes to the mastermind event. We do all kinds of cool things to work together. He's fired up. On the last day, we do mind stretching exercises. This past time, we did a really cool day on a flying trapeze, like circus kind of place. We've got a quick clip here. So check this out. This is PJ just basically just having no fear was what you got to do as an entrepreneur. So check out this quick clip.
Look at that. Way to go, dog. 75. You got it right? Yeah.
All right, so man, this guy, he's willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. Flying trapeze, you name it. So at the event, he put in his resignation for his job. He's flying on trapezes, feeling good, doing a Pay It Forward Friday video with us, and everything starts, to continue to come together. That night, after the trapeze, for the mastermind, I leveraged my engagement party as a shameless ploy to get some really cool contacts out of the woodworks to come hang out with us and hang out with my mastermind and hang out with all of us. And it worked because we had some of the top, we had Mike Koenigs, we had Mark Anthony Bates, we had all kinds of top entrepreneurs in San Diego that came out. And a cool thing, for PJ is he has experience speaking, but he wants to share his message about helping women getting engaged and sharing that message of love. And sure enough, at that engagement party, I knew that telling the story of him taking a guy down with his neck and his chin was gonna just blow minds. So I grabbed this dude, Mark Anthony. I'm like, you gotta meet PJ. Come here, dude, come here. And Mark Anthony is one of the most sought after speaker trainers. So, I mean, he's done work with T. Harv Eker, all the big names, Ryan Dice's company. And I mean, this is the guy that has more connections and, you know, he knows what to do with. And what's cool is I connect him and I say, so PJ, would you mind sharing that story about how you met Simon? And Simon was there. And then all of a sudden Mark Anthony's like, dude, this guy's incredible. Well, guess what? Mark Anthony is a guy who is so influential, he can help PJ get on stages. So boom, now he's got another he's got another channel. At that same engagement master, you know, where we had the engagement party, meets John Lee Dumas with Entrepreneur on Fire. Now PJ is gonna be on Entrepreneur on Fire, and his episode will reach hundreds of thousands of people, right? So the moral of the story is that when you invest in yourself, you surround yourself with the right people, you can achieve rapid growth. PJ, we're talking from, I first met him December 5th of last year. As I shoot this video, you know, we're in April. It's like 5 months, the guy has made money, quit his job, and now he's gonna be on stages. He's gonna be on the biggest podcast in the, you know, the biggest show on iTunes. And it's like all that's happening because surround himself with the right people. He's fearlessly taking action, and he's just, you know, willing to step into the fear and to go towards it and to have faith and trust. So I want for you to do the same exact thing. Take this story and internalize it and think of for you in your life, you know, is it, you know, how can you put yourself in the right environment? How can you create a plan so that you can leave your job? He had a plan to leave his job. He knew exactly how many clients he needed to be able to put in that resignation to make it happen. So if you're, you know, have a work situation that you don't love, make the plan to fire your boss, get out from under it. If you're an entrepreneur and you've built a business that you no longer love or enjoy, then shift gears. We have a choice to live a life on fire. You have a choice to live a life on fire however you want. And what I want you to do is to think about it right now, that what in your business career is missing, and what would you just love to do that even if you weren't getting paid, you would do it anyway. And to think about your career in that way, where if you love what you're doing so much that money wouldn't matter, it's like that is what you should be doing, and that is a life on fire. So I want you to just really think about that right now, and I also just want to encourage you to just invest in yourself as well. And depending when you're seeing this video, we have an event called Ignite Your Movement, and it's absolutely life-changing. It's been life-changing for PJ and many other people. It's more fun than anything I've ever been a part of, and it's transformational. And so if you go to lifeonfireignite.com, grab a ticket. So depending when you're seeing this, we have a free ticket offer that's just for a limited amount of time. So go to lifeonfireignite.com and plug in with us. Surround yourself with this kind of energy. Come hang with us. Let's help you quit your job and live a life on fire and prosper with purpose. We'll see you soon. Cheers.
I'm here to help you set your life on fire.